But that's what really excites me, because getting into a shop in New York in the indie section, that's a no-brainer. It's when you start bubbling in places that you weren't expecting, you know? That's when you start to be like,
the Bible Belt.
Exactly. I wasn't expecting it, but also it shows a level of optimism that I wasn't ready for, because it means that people are hungry. It means they're looking for singular visions and looking for passion and looking for fun. That's the thing that comics have kind of lost in the mainstream, is their whimsy and their fun. Because with the reseller market, with the big art market and all these things, it got way too serious. Way too serious. Where it's just kind of like, I get it, but it's f***ing comic books, you know?
This is the Inkpulp podcast.
Yo.
Hey, Matteo, check this out.
That start to the show.
No. Check this out. This is good. This is good. Watch. Check this out.
Oh my God!
And then
I wish I didn't see it.
Oh no! Here's no, not this. Oh, it's raining. Oh.
So let me guess.
Why does anyone watch this show?
Jamie has started to complain because we're asking for too much.
Exactly.
So he started installing shortcuts. So all this dumb shit, we'll do it ourselves. Oh my God.
All right, welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. This is Shawn playing with dumb animated tricks.
Can I do it too, or is it just you?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's a Google Chrome thing. On your Mac, in the upper right-hand corner, do you see a little video camera icon with a green square rectangle around it? Do you see that?
No. Well, you explain me later.
I'll send you a screenshot. But anyways, it's just a Google Chrome thing. When you're using a camera, it's like, hey, you can turn on reactions, which I think is awesome.
Oh my God. I'm already figuring out the next episode is going to be so fucking dumb when I start learning how to use this thing. Yes. Oh my God.
All right. Welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. I'm here with my brother, the Dumb Shark, and our good friend, Marti Keane.
Hello.
We've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. But first,
hello, brother.
Hello, Marti.
Well, first, there's another important thing that I just realized when we had the countdown.
Yeah.
I need to congratulate Mahdi for his, how do you call it?
His earphones. Earphones.
Yeah, the headphones. Oh my God, that reminds me of my childhood.
Well, listen, ask him what they're normally attached to.
It's my Walkman.
Oh, you one of those?
Come on,
oh
man.
my God!
You think when I'm out in the street, I don't have a Walkman clipped to my belt? And
wait,
is it
like Marti? Here's the real important question: are we talking cassette or CD?
Cassette, right?
Oh shit! This is serious business.
We talking cassette, baby.
Marti,
we are talking
boom. Shawn, do you have some visual effect for that?
Dun, dun, dun. But really, my other headphones just don't work, so I need to use these.
Well, just the fact that you have cassettes is crazy.
Oh, I mean, look, if you see behind, I'm all about.
The vinyl,
back,
I know.
Yeah.
Dude, if I see
cassettes, they're coming back, man.
Yeah, they're great.
CDs are too. My Zach is all about CDs these days. But if I see Marti walking down the street with a turntable and headphones plugged into it,
I'm gonna have a boombox next time.
Yeah, we got Radio Raheem on the podcast today.
Exactly. Shit.
All right, so Matteo,
Radio Raheem.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it because it would be too egocentric if I made the joke, but.
Radio Raheem. Actually, I think we got a new name for Marti. Radio Raheem.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Awesome.
Done.
Matteo, let's give a quick announcement.
Absolutely.
Scott
Morris,
our
good friend Scott Morris. Yeah. You go.
He's got a Kickstarter. I think it's still going when this comes out, but basically, Scott worked at Pixar for I think 15 years. He said he did a ton of comics before that, some during. Scott's a prolific cartoonist, storyteller.
He even did an episode with us a few months ago, so
exactly.
You can go back and watch it. It
go
was
listen to it.
Great conversation.
Scott's amazing, and he wanted to come back to comics now that he's been laid off from Pixar. So he started a project of just one-page stories, and he asked like a ton of creators to write a one-page story for him. I wrote one, Matteo wrote one. And now it's
mine is the best of the whole book, of course.
Mine's definitely better. Mine is so much better. But it's
that gay probably two astronauts each other.
I'm sorry. I just imagine the podcast is going to devolve where it's just Matteo this close to the camera, be like, this fucking shit. Losing his mind.
And it'll just be me like this. So he's got a collection of these stories, one-page stories he did. Matteo, like I said, Matteo did one. I did one. I'm pretty sure Jim did one. I think like Kent Williams did one. Like the list is insane. And he got Jose Villarrubia to color it. So that Kickstarter is going on now. We'll pop the link down below. Please support this project. It's a wild thing he did.
The book is called "The Zinc Runs Cold."
Yeah. And Matteo, do you want to give a little synopsis of what your one-page story was about?
Well, it's not incredible. It's just a little synopsis, just one page. So whatever I tell is the story already. But it was. What did you pick? Because we have two themes.
You could pick sci-fi or noir, right?
Or noir. Yeah, I picked sci-fi.
I did
Mine
sci-fi
was,
too.
You follow basically a guy like how you call a soldier. In his thoughts when he's preparing to battle, and then there's a thing happening in the final panel that kind of it's a kind of how do you say when you everything changes the last second.
The twist.
A twist.
Yeah, it's got a twist at the end.
Yeah. Nice. Mine's about a space explorer finding the meaning to life.
Oh, wow. One page. That's all you needed?
Yeah, dude, it's very simple, Marty.
Wow.
The meaning
he kills
of life
himself at the
very
simple. He couldn't find it, so
he discovers animated emojis on the computer.
And turns out he's gay, so the meaning of life is sucking cock. And that's it. He keeps sucking aliens' cocks for the rest of his life, like abandoning his family and everything. By the way, great idea for a book, Marty. Am I right?
I'm on it.
Marty,
Awesome.
I'm wondering at what point in this past 5 minutes did you regret agreeing to come on this show?
I've been trying to log off, but it won't let me.
No. You're stuck on here with us,
trapped.
man. There's no escape.
I'm in it now. All right.
And please, when we finish the interview, don't jerk off because the camera is gonna keep going on over the next week or so. You can't disconnect at all.
You've already installed.
All right, what are you drinking there, Marty? You're
just
a worldly man.
Just a coffee.
Just a plain straight
Coffee.
A little un café, as they say.
Okay, but that's not coffee. Un café. I mean, like you're a worldly man.
That's
so
true.
what are we drinking?
French
are we
press.
drinking what?
French press.
Okay.
press
Just
coffee.
like a drip brew. Is that what we're talking about, or an espresso?
Well, it's the actual press of the. It's a French press.
Oh,
it's
a French press. I thought you said French press.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
French press with a little
dumb-dumb.
sparkling water. I'm trying to be just European.
Oh, dude! Whoa, fancy.
A little
Marty.
intellectual. More a button-down
You're
shirt.
a
today.
worldly man. A very yeah, you did. You dressed up for us. Thank you.
I did.
We did not. All right. Let's get into some meat and bones. Marty, why did we have you on the show today?
Let's find out.
Why the fuck?
Why? How did you manage this? And I mean, you tell me. I don't know. Why am I here?
Okay. I'm being silly, but yeah, Marty. I think is one of the most inspired and impressive young creators out there today. He is forging a path through creating his own comics and kind of setting the standard for a new way of doing this. So I always love talking to Mahdi about what he's doing and how he's doing it. But I want to hear what Matteo has to say about Mahdi.
Oh, no. I'm curious too, especially considering what Mahdi sent me a bunch of weeks ago. Speaking of, since you said cafe, Mahdi is now doing a book completely, correct me if I'm wrong, completely in Italian.
I am, yeah.
Can I say the title, or it's still?
No, yeah, for sure. Now? You can say it.
It's L'Uomo Luce.
Exactly.
The light man.
The light man. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, thank you, Shawn, for always making me blush. But there's, I don't know. I had this, actually, I was in Paris not long ago, and I stumbled into the shop, and I asked them if they had Italian comics. I started learning Italian just for fun. I like to learn languages.
How long ago did you start learning Italian?
A couple months ago, I think.
And how are you learning it? Like, what are you using?
I'm doing some Duolingo. I'm reading comics. And also I'm trying I'm just writing the comic in Italian.
All right, but you had a conversation with Matteo earlier that I'm not at that level, and I've been on Duolingo for years. So what am I doing wrong? Or is this because you know so many languages already that you know kind of the root of Italian?
Sort of. Like, I know French and Spanish. Okay. And so, Italian kind of, it's all in the same, it's in the same family. Yeah. And so you just sort of, you pick it up. And
I'm a dumb American, so I just know English. So that's pretty much what
I know American is what I know. That's what I know. No, but
I only speak red, white, and blue.
But I was curious. This is a question for both of you.
Yeah.
What's the end goal like in your learning Italian process?
I want to be able
to... You want to become fluent in Italian?
Yes. I want to be able to have conversational Italian. I want to be at a con with you and Aaliyah and be able to just talk to you guys. I want to be able to visit Italy. I mean, I can visit Italy fine and get, I've done it before, but I want to be able to
get pussy and all that stuff. But
I want to know where the male gay hookers are, so I can do my thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love how casually Matteo's like, that's awesome.
It's like, yeah, good. Standard.
You could have asked me, and that's it.
It's like, that's why I learned it.
Fuck.
We already do. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, but not the way I want it.
I want love.
Okay, this is a podcast. Shawn. All right, we have a conversation to have later, Matteo.
How about you, Mahdi? What's the end goal? Let's just
Sure.
Let's just fly over this, this direction, and change direction of the conversation. So, Mahdi, do you want to fuck Italian hookers as well, or?
Just here. Honestly, I don't even know what the end goal is anymore.
Well, you were writing a comic, so I assume that was part of it.
I wrote a comic. I'm writing the comic to learn the language, but I think it's also whenever I get into something, I like to just... so I was in Paris, and I asked the comic shop owner if he had any comics in Italian, because I was like, maybe that's a good way to learn the language. And then he gave me these things, like Zora.
Yeah.
All
Zora
these little...
Vampira.
Exactly. And I had never seen this format before in a comic.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, I don't know if I can show... Yeah. 2-panel pages, splashes,
nice.
pocketbook stuff. And then immediately I just wanted to make this. And... in the superhero comics thing that I do, it's all about, homaging and format and all these things. And so I was like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to do a comic in Italian. And so I would write it in English, Google translate it, and then see if it makes any sense, and then go around and then do my Duolingo, listening to Ornella Vanoni and Mina and stuff like that, and use those lyrics and put them in the thing. And then now I'm just like, I don't know, I took a break from it, but it's... there's going to be a nice little Italian pocketbook that I'm going to print in this format.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Are you planning also to do that many pages, or it's going to be like smaller, slimmer, like the other ones?
It might be a little slimmer, but with the size, the amount of pages, I think will still make it look.
Oh yeah, right.
Thick,
because it's just 2 panels per page. Yeah,
Right.
so
Exactly. Yeah.
you can cover a lot of the story with. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
and then
that.
my goal, the end game for me, is to go to Rome or someplace in Italy, take one of my books and just put it in the shelf, and then just have it, and then somebody will take it up, be like, "Oh, this is from 1978, cool," and they'll be confused. That's the end. I'm going to change my name to Marti Keane so that it has like. So my end goal is to trick the world.
Mario Keane.
Mario Keane.
Mario.
Ciao.
I'm a Mario.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun.
Let me drink my coffee, my French press coffee.
My presso francese.
Marty, let's talk about superhero comics.
Sure.
Explain to those who don't know what it is.
Okay. So if you want to go like a little bit back, I started making comics in 2022 is when I started doing like comic books. And when I started it, I thought I needed immediately a level of legitimacy because I saw like published by Mahdi Keane. I'm like, nobody understands what that is. No one knows who that is, whatever. So I thought if I created an entity behind it, then immediately I would be one step ahead because now I'm published by, even if it's just me, now I'm published by. So I started this thing called Superhero Comics. And as it kept going, I realized that I could use the publishing format as a way to tell the stories as well. And so I started making it so that every issue is a different title from a different time. And so then every single, it would look like there was a catalog of series.
A catalog, yeah.
Without actually there being, exactly. And then my end game, long thinking, I was like, in 10 years, I'll have artists on each one of those series. And so little by little, it just started picking up. And then now there's 2 series. There's Steel Streets and Superhero Comics Presents. And now we're publishing other artists. We're doing like cool stuff. There's merchandising. There's a fan club. And it kind of grew into this little, this little vehicle for fun comic book making.
And
that's awesome, man. What's your main right now? Sorry, Shawn.
No, go ahead.
What's your main way to promote? Is that doing shows or mainly through social?
Both. At the beginning, it was definitely shows, and also going to every comic shop, like in New York and everything, and doing every little show that I could do. And then also just slowly building the social media. I mean, social media right now, I'm still not at like, tens of thousands of followers. It's just kind of, you sort of slowly build that. Yeah. But otherwise, absolutely. I think it's just, and also getting other artists involved was a big thing, because then you have 2 audiences that are getting used to it, 3 audiences, 4. Yeah, but it's mostly been that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome, man.
And are they all superhero spoofs, like spoofs on like bootlegs on existing
not
characters?
At all. No. The only bootlegs I do was the Spider-Man one, and then this new one I just did for fun. Those are like in a whole nother section. Those are like the mini comics, one-offs and stuff. Right. Everything else, there's a series called Steel Streets, which started as an homage to the comics of the 80s and all these things. And then there's a whole nother series called Superhero Comics Presents, where each one is the different timeline, and it's all one big shared universe. I wanted to bring back the Silver Age shared universe thing, of Marvel that they did back in the day, because I missed it. I thought it was such a nice thing to have, whatever, Spider-Man swinging in the back of the Hulk's comic. And I just wanted to bring back that vibe and have one singular mind, which is mine, writing all the stories and getting all the timelines right,
And you said, Mahdi, that you started being a comic book artist around 2021, 2022. Yeah. What were you doing before? Did you have other plans for your life, or comic books were always an interest of yours?
No, I mean, when I was a kid, when I was younger, I read a lot of bande dessinée, like Asterix, Obélix, Lucky Luke, all those things. And also Spider-Man's, Dragon Ball Z, the manga. But then when I was like 13, I started learning guitar, and I got really interested in playing like music and rock and roll and everything. And so then I thought that was going to be my thing. And I stopped drawing, and I didn't really care about it. And then a couple of years ago, I was still pursuing a music career. So I was in New York, and I was just gigging doing the bar clubs, the blues bar scene and everything. I was going around town, going around the country, doing some shows and stuff. But then after COVID, all the gigs just disappeared, and everybody stopped going to shows and everything. And so at one point, I was a barista again, looking at my life and being like, what am I going to do? And then I was just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to enjoy myself. And then I remembered that I liked comic books. And so I thought to myself, fuck it, I'll just do it. I'll make my own comic book. Why not? And then I started and I didn't stop because I fell in love with it.
That's also, with this comes another question in my head, which is, but okay, there's a lot of people that they love comics and they start, doing something, but the way you talk, you have a strong entrepreneurial mindset already. I don't know if this is the right word. Like
entrepreneurial.
You're naturally transitions to, well, I want to do my comics, so yeah, all right, I'll do my publishing house and I'll do, so that, and you're starting already to think that way. Is there something that comes from something in the family? Is there a familiarity with that attitude, or it's just, you think it was just in your DNA and that's it?
I don't know. I think it really comes from just needing to forge your own path. So it makes you a hustler. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when I was like, you had to fight for gigs in New York trying to be a musician. You had to scrounge up the money to pay the bar so that they let you play for the one person that came to see you play. You know what I mean? So it makes you think like that. It makes you be like, I have a goal. This is what I want, and I need to do all these little things to get it. And so with the comics, I remember I made it, and I made the first one, which sucked. Obviously, I think they kept sucking for a long time. But I always say that if you have one bad comic, you just have a bad comic. But if you have 10 bad comics, it's a piece of work. It's like it's a body of work. It becomes an art piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember. Sorry to interrupt. I remember this really interesting thing that Todd McFarlane said.
Right.
Like, just it was the starting point for him was the importance of doing like of being consistent with a series and doing a lot of issues.
Right.
And it was like, just the fact alone that you worked on it that long attracts a lot of people. Right. Immediately in the head of people, it would be like, whoa, there's so much stuff. They kept doing it for so long. It means that there's something good in it.
Right.
So that already, it's a great, mindset.
I mean, it's just not letting anyone. I mean, McFarlane is a huge inspiration. Whenever I do two things to get motivated. I listen to a Todd McFarlane interview and I put on like Journey, Don't Stop Believing. That's what gets me through the fucking night. You know what I mean? It's just, but yeah.
And Marty, didn't Todd stop at your booth at New York Comic Con?
No.
What was the story there?
I lifted my head and I saw him like an apparition, just like walking around in his suit, and I ran to him. I abandoned my table, and I just looked at him. I was like, Todd, you're a good inspiration. He was like, oh, thank you, bud. You got a card? And I just slapped my business card in his hand. He was like, okay, and then left. And I was like, that was amazing. That was wonderful. But he looked me in the eye, and I felt God. It was nice. I felt the God. I felt the Todd Father. He touched me.
Right. Wait. Do we have a lawsuit coming?
No, but yeah, I don't know. It was just like, you keep going. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's so basically your previous lifestyle teach you how to have this kind of mindset, because again, I want to stress this, but it's not everyone reasons this way and they're so quick to do this thing.
Sure.
Most of the people, they get scared and they tend to be just still and not react and do stuff. Instead, you really easily do it,
But I think that's just that's a personality thing. But also, I started making comics at 30 something, right? I'm 33 now, and I've been battered down enough to be like, nothing matters. I'll just try it. I'll just do what I want. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Someone says no.
Plus, you have a plus, which is 33 in New York City.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is even,
so I'm like, I'm about 82 right now. So I think
in terms of life experiences.
Exactly. Yeah. So really, I think it's just that. I think most people they wait to be good before starting, whereas I just started. And like I remember when I did my first comic, it was like 36 pages or something, and it was a shitty story and shitty art and everything. And I printed 50 of them, and I went to every comic shop, and they all looked at me and said, "Nope, we're not stocking this." And I was like, "Okay." So I went back and I just reworked it, and then I went back. They were like, "Okay, we'll take it," but none of them sold. And so I went back, took them all back.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What do you think the difference was between your first approach and second approach that made them take it?
The first approach was just I started a story at the beginning. I was like, this is where this begins, and this is this, and this is this, and this, and this, and this. And that was just terrible. And the art was horrible. The second one, I was like, maybe I can rework the story, start in the middle. And the art got a little better because I kept drawing. And then the third version that finally took and sold is when I had the whole concept where I changed the size, and I had the whole the banner, and I created the publishing house to be like this whole thing. And so then it looked more legitimate. You know, it looked more like an actual comic book.
So on all of these print runs, you paid for the printing. I assume are these staple bound? Did you bind them yourself and do all the folding and everything?
Not for those ones. I was working at a cafe, downtown, and it was good. So I would use that money to finance the print runs. And then after I think after I made 4 issues, I could start using the money from the issues to finance the next print run. But it was months in.
Profitable. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was then.
Now you're doing it full time, right?
Yeah. Now it's a full time thing.
So at what point were you able to leave your job and just do the comics?
I started slowly weaning myself off of the coffee shop. So I used to do 5 days at the cafe and 7 days as a cartoonist. And then I started doing 4 days at the cafe and 7 days as a cartoonist, and then 3 and 7, and it kept going. And then 8 months ago, maybe I was at one shift, and then I was like, you know what, maybe it's time to make the leap and do the leap of faith. It's a couple $100 a month from the cafe. So I'm like, let me just hustle a little more and see what happens. And it's been okay. So it's like, amazing. It's been 7-8 months, I think, since I've been doing it, trying.
Man, concerned about the state of the art form, the state of the craft.
Jim, what's up, brother? Look, don't worry. I've hired Dr. Pulpenstein, and he's going to fix everything.
Dr. Pulpenstein?
Ah! Hello there, Jim. I am hard at work at the antidote of what ails our craft. I've given Shawn the first dose.
First dose? Can you explain?
That's right, Jim. I got the first dose. I'm giving away my brand new sketchbook for free.
Free? Are you crazy?
Si, senor. It is correct. The first dose is Shawn's free sketchbook.
We're doing like a Spanish thing now, I guess.
That's right. My new sketchbook, Inkpulp Magenta, is totally free. All you gotta do is head over to my Kickstarter pre-launch page, which is for my new art book, Inkpulp Cyan. Enter your email, pledge at any tier level on the Inkpulp Cyan campaign, and you will get Inkpulp Magenta, the sketchbook, free. PDF emailed to you.
Man, that is great, Shawn.
See ya, Jim. Shawn's newest sketchbook is totally free.
Okay, this is Italian now? Is that what's happening?
And you guys know, freelance, it's like some months are great, some months are not, some months are this and that.
Yeah.
But you just kind of as long as you keep putting stuff out, I think it's okay.
So you're getting freelance work as well. What are you getting? Like, because you have a very, very distinctive style. Like the only thing that I can compare it to, it's Gene Mahfood. You know, it's a very, very particular style.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Is there like local art that's required, like from New York or other publishers? What's the
There hasn't
Where
been.
does that come from?
Yeah, no, there hasn't been any. Like I never thought I would be published by the big two or big three or whatever. So I never tried, and I haven't gotten any jobs from them.
So
No.
are you doing freelance, or you're just making an analogy to us doing freelance?
Well, I consider what I do freelance as the.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's kind of like, it's kind of that where you just sort of, because the way I employ myself, I freelance myself into making the books. And then, it's called dual personalities in my head.
All right. Marty's a little unstable, I guess.
It's a little bipolar in there, yeah.
A little bit. I mean, that's how you make two books at once, right? You have to no, but I do get the odd gig of an album cover or a short story, stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah, when people are into the, the toothbrush and all that shit. Yeah.
And awesome. I mean, your hustle is incredible. I mean, just thinking about what you said earlier, you started 3 years ago, and now you're full time doing comics. That's amazing.
It's an art form that is so. When I compare it to music or fine art or whatever, it's the last, I think, art industry that still has a middle class. I always say this, and I'm always grateful for it, because it still revolves around physical media. And so we're more akin to the dudes selling the CDs in the back of the trunk than we are to high artists getting gallery shows and all that shit, because we can still pedal, which is huge when you're on the up and up. Because in music, you're either nothing or everything. And not only that, you're paying for the gigs. So you're always at a loss. Your only platform is Spotify. So you're getting pennies to the streams. Then you have to invest all your time in pushing your stuff online. Then you got to sell out. You got to do the pop song, so it fucks you in your head as an artist. It makes you, it forces you to be something that you're not. Whereas in comics, you have the chance to fully express yourself and still sell. And if you're able to sell, then you're able to eat, and it's just kind of it's that thing.
When you say pedal, what are the outlets that are out there that you've used to make your sales?
There's been, at the beginning, I set up my store first. Online. I had an online store since the beginning. That's something I understood. I was like, if anything, I need a place that people can go to, like a default setting. Like, they go to comic shops, they can't find it. Oh, but they can always find it here. So I had that. And then I went to comic shops around around New York, around the East Coast. And then I started cold calling too. Cold calling comic shops and be like, "Hi, my name is Mahdi Keane. I'm an indie publisher from Superhero Comics. Does your comic shop supply indie comics?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah." And then get an email, and then you do that. But also social media and conventions.
So you found a workaround, because everyone feels like they're burdened to the diamond distribution model,
right?
And a lot of people say you have to be in diamond to sell books, but you have sold books not going through diamond.
Yeah. Because I tried my best to make it easy for the comic shops and me. So I have a wholesale page on my website. So people now can go directly to the wholesale page. They email me, I give them the code, and then they can order directly from the site. We don't even have to interact anymore. They can just order what they want. There's no minimums because shipping and everything is in the price. And then it gets sent off. And in a world like now where diamond is also not, everything's a little precarious, I wanted to make it seamless to be like, because the way I see the future is that each person will become their own distributor, their own publisher, their own thing. And the sooner that we can get comic shops used to that, I think it'll start to kind of, for me, because I worked in service also my whole life, it's more akin to a restaurateur. They have their fish guy, they have their meat guy, their dairy guy. It's all different people, So they have their indie superhero comic guy, they have their noir guy, they have the thing. So they just reach out to all these different purveyors, all these different suppliers, and that's how they're going to do it. I think that's how I think the future is going.
What's kind of blowing my mind right now is one of the big challenges our industry is having is comic shops are completely reliant on diamond, And if Diamond fails, then the worry is the comic shop fails. You are exploring a way that keeps the comic shop thriving and alive with new ideas and new talent by working around it. I don't know that anyone's really put in the work like you have in that way.
Well, I mean, the way I see it is that comic shop owners used to be tastemakers. And I think they haven't been empowered to do that in a long time because they've become kind of beholden to Diamond, to the big two, to the movies that come out and everything. So maybe there's a cultural shift that needs to happen where comic shop owners can be like, fuck it, I like this. I'm going to push this because it's a reliable indie guy now.
Yeah.
Indie people, we don't have the best reputation, when it comes to like businessmen and schedules.
Well, it's
and
the
all
Wild
that
West. Yeah.
It's the Wild West. But I think,
but I think you're right. I think it's changing. I think indie is going to become the reliable place.
Yeah, I think
so. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Keep going.
No. Yeah, I'm saying that I think that we, as indie people, if we can show, let me backtrack. When I started making comics, I asked a comic shop owner, what is it about indie books? Like, why don't they really sell? Like, why is it such a small section? And he told me, he was like, Mahdi, do you know what people do when they finish reading a comic? They pick up another fucking comic. And I was like, okay. He's like, that means if your indie comic takes 6 months to make for issue 2, nobody's going to want to read it because they have a million other books that they can read. And so they don't want to get involved in your story. They don't want to be vulnerable to your story. So if you can manage to be consistent, that's what will get you to a level where you can start competing with the monthly books and all these things. And so if comic shops can now start looking at indie creators as reliable people that are consistent and are making work, and it's kind of like it will happen all at the same time because the comic shops will empower the indie guys will empower the thing, and everyone's going to be making more money because now they're sharing the stuff more, they're buying more, people are eating more, we're working more, everything's just kind of building up. And so I think if that cultural shift can kind of happen in the next couple of years, because comic shops, it's like a cool place. And there are still cool comic shops that the people do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
they just need more Mahdis. Because that's I don't think there's a lot of people that are able to do it with the consistency that you do. Like
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But that is also, I think, a cultural thing because
absolutely.
No, because I think that people, the thing that stops them the most is their own notion of what is good to themselves. You know what I mean? I'm saying people are very precious with their work. And so they lose kind of, in my mind, comic book making is story first. It's about story. And then the art and the words have to serve the story. And the comic book page is always meant to be turned. It's never meant to be looked at. You're supposed to do this to a comic book page. And at the end of it, be like, where's an issue 2? I need it. And so if people are laboring over their art because they want people to stare at their splash page, I think they lost the mark in terms of what a comic book, then make a painting because that's what you want to do. Yep. But if they want to actually do comics, then they have to understand that it's like a movie. You're not supposed to pause it, It's supposed to flow. And I think if people understood that, they could be less precious and kind of let themselves, the building doesn't have
productive. Yeah,
exactly. The building doesn't have to have a million windows. The faces don't have to be perfect. The proportions don't have to be. It's just like it flows. That's all it has to do is flow.
It's a very interesting point, especially Matteo and I obviously pour in labor into the page. I don't disagree with you, but I think there is a middle ground. But I think the important lesson from what you're saying is don't get in your own way.
Exactly.
Don't try to make it too precious.
Exactly.
Do you feel like there's an opportunity with approaching shops on your own and going the indie route? I mean, this monthly comic thing, that's pretty American, right, Matteo? I guess in Italy, are they monthly?
No, I mean, mangas are.
Right. But you have like what are they called? Like the nice hardcover books that like tomes. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, they're not monthly.
But
Like
artists,
those are not
they do
monthly.
one a year, don't they?
Right.
Normally.
So is there? Go ahead.
Yeah,
go
what
ahead,
they
Matteo.
do, like for example, for U.S. comic books, they just published the TPBs,
Right.
and they're really late. Like in general, if you're confronted with the timeline where they come out in the States, like for example, like we got invited, me and a bunch of other artists 2 years ago in Spain. Basically they invited Rick Remender and a bunch of artists that work with him, and I don't think that Black Science is over there yet.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't think, I don't want to, I might be wrong in this, but
Right.
it's there's we don't have the monthly thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So that my question to you, Marty, is because one thing I'm
sorry.
No,
I gotta interrupt you, but
go ahead.
no, for example, Dylan Dog, like the big the books by
And
Bonelli,
what is it, Zagar?
Yeah, and even
Zagor, Dylan Dog,
even
Marty Mister, all
Diabolique
those
too.
ones.
That was a big
Diabolique, they're
yeah.
monthly. You gotta, absolutely.
But the format they come out in is not like a floppy comic. Is that correct?
They're TPBs, like they're big books. They're
and
96,
and it's
96
not just
pages.
It's not just one artist doing the whole book, is it?
No, they have like for Dylan Dog, they have like 30
Sure.
in the storage room.
Right.
Yeah.
They're ready. They have like fill up issues where nothing important for the main storyline happens, and then they have important issues that have to come out at a specific time.
So I'm wondering if there's a way to shape the American market a little bit to expand its expectations. So like doing what you're saying, but putting out like one 90-page book a year in a nice format, following your method. I think if creators, like if some people are more like you, built to just knock out monthly books, that's an avenue. But do you think there's also an avenue to open that up to other ways of presenting the comic?
For sure. I mean, I think there's, again, I think it all comes down to story at the end.
Right.
Because I've noticed a trend that people are putting out less storylines and more just one-shots. And one-shots are great, but I think people still, at the end of the day, readers, they want story. They want to give themselves to something,
Right.
And so, I don't know, doing a book a year, that sounds fantastic. I would love to do that. That sounds great. But also, is the American market, do people just want one book a year? How quickly do you read a comic? Even a 90-page book, you read it in 15 minutes sometimes,
Right. So then what are your thoughts on the graphic novel and the book market and that way of doing things?
I love the idea of collections. I think that's cool. But I mean,
not collections. I'm talking about like a Craig Thompson.
Oh, like an actual
graphic
novel. No, I think that's great. I think there's if you want to tell one big story, then that's the avenue to do it in, for sure. I'm not saying you should break it up into little things and then have it be a thing. I think it's about story and format. If the format, you like it and it works for you, then 100%. Yeah. But I think it's a case of trying to make, I don't know, it's hard. In Europe, for example, you go to like a gas station and there's the big BDs that are just, stacked there. So it's a cultural thing too. In Brussels, there's a comic shop on every corner and it's all selling those beautiful books and everything. Because for them, they follow artists and they follow these like long storylines, and it doesn't really matter who the artist. It's either they follow Lucky Luke, where it doesn't matter who the artist is, or they follow the artist.
Yeah.
And I think you have a similar thing coming out now with, you get the latest Jim Mahfood joint. You get the latest Shawn Crystal. You get the latest Matteo. you don't necessarily get, oh, this is the storyline. It's not about the books, it's about the creator now. And I want it kind of be back about the books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what? As you're talking, the French philosophy around that reminds me more of like literature books.
Yeah.
Meaning that there's an author that you like,
right,
and you'll wait for their next thing that they'll do. You know, whether it's the same story, like it's issue number 2 of the series that started last year, or whether it's a new book. And you follow those authors, and whenever the new book comes out, you go and buy it to see what's the next thing from them.
Right.
The U.S. market, as well as the Italian books, like the famous ones, again, Tex, Dylan Dog. Comic book is more like a commercial product, a thing that you should read. Like for example, Dylan Dog in Italy is the typical book that you read when you have to take a train. If you live in Parma like me and you have to work in Milan and you take a train, and the ride lasts an hour and a half, that's the perfect book that you can read in an hour and a half. You have 96 pages. When it's done, you just trash it. It fucking cares, It's not even, an important product, for them. Yeah. So most of the people that read that book, they don't even know that there's different artists for each book. They don't even notice that. They just notice something different here and there, but they don't know. They don't even know the names of the artists working on them.
Yeah, and I think there might be more longevity with that, because I think a property will outlive us. Like that's for sure. And so if you can manage to sort of, I brought some books that I wanted to show.
Please do.
Speaking of like the format, all my books are a smaller size, because I want people to do this and put it in there. That's what I want. That's how I want people to pick it up at the comic shop and read it on the train ride home. And this is a book I did. I'm not drawing it. I just wrote this one and this one too. This is actually Jonathan Marks Baravecchia.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
When you have your own property, then you can start to lighten your load. Where I drew this one. I drew and wrote this one of another series while I wrote these two. And so then these two, I forgot, this one came out in February, this one January. So now you're able to do monthly books, but you're not drawing all the time, because now people are interested in the stories. They're not following my art on this because I'm not the artist on this. Jonathan did the first issue too.
What you are doing is building a little brand loyalty, because they're all superhero.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
And so now when people, they want to follow the story, the biggest compliment I can get is people like the art. I'm like, that's my art. I'm like, that's cool. I love it. But the biggest story I can get is like, oh, I can't wait to know what happens next. For me, that's when I'm like, well, that's absolutely. The next book. That's when I can actually do the next book,
Yeah, it's a completely different philosophy. You're thinking again in your franchise. You're a publisher, and you're studying all the products that you want to be on the market.
Exactly. Yeah, and also it's just I like to, because I don't know, I'm used to working 12 hours a day, standing up, bartending, or doing the night shift at a hotel, and all. So I'm used to putting in the hours. And now I'm putting in the hours doing something I like, but I know it's not sustainable in terms of, in terms of just life, because the last thing I want to do is be chained to the comic book, to the table. Like I want to live. Right. And so if I can manage to find a way so that I have 5 books out there getting worked on while I'm working on a passion project, which is the Light Man, then I get kind of the best of both worlds, while also building this thing and also having fun and also creating a big arc. I already know the ending of superhero comics, because at the end, superhero comics will be the art piece. Like the big publisher will be this last tome of this whole meta world that was built, that I'll only allow on my deathbed to be read, and it will be on my body.
That's what will kill you. Reading the book. The weight of the book will crush you.
Exactly.
So, Mahdi, I assume you've developed some really close relationships with shops at this point.
Sure.
And they're behind you. in whatever you're going to put out. How many shops around do you think you have that sort of relationship with now?
I mean, I think like my shop here in New York.
I also have a follow-up question to that. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
Go ahead.
Forbidden Planet in New York. I know that's like I've done a signing there. I've done this and that. But shops around, it's more sporadic than a loyal thing. When I have a bigger book, when I have some buzz, that's when I get inbound emails from shops and everything. Because again, the indie part of it is what makes shops weary. It's also the size. It's different. It's all different.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm kind of forcing it down their throats when it comes to shelving, when it comes to racks, when it comes to this. And it's...
So what... I'm sorry, Matteo. I'm interrupting. Go finish what you're saying, Matteo. I had a question. Matteo, do you want to do your...
No, I was curious, but I wanted Mahdi to finish what he was saying and then ask.
Right. So... I forgot what I was saying.
No, you're saying Shawn, that you're forcing the shops in terms of placement and all that stuff.
So I'm forcing it by trying to do stuff that when people like it, and I always tell folks, I'm like, ask your local comic shop if they'd be willing to stock the indie books, because at the end of the day, I'm also fulfilling all the orders. So I'm not just, an artist and I send it off and then I forget about it. I get the orders and then I'm there with a label maker doing everything, going back to my service industry life where I'm just, doing the factory work. So it's in my best interest too, to get people to request it at their comic shop. And so I get some people that are like, hey, we've gotten people asking about what's that Steel Streets? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly our thing. Then I have the email and I send them the catalog and the wholesale pricing and the sheet and everything. And then that's how that happens. But it's part of the cultural shift we were talking about, where the more people are into indie books, the more they get disappointed with Marvel and DC, the better the indie world gets, because all they're getting is passion.
Right. And the other side of that coin is a lot of the talent is getting tired of working for Marvel and DC for those same reasons. So they're going the indie route and putting their passions to use there. Yeah. But Matteo, I'm sorry, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, I have two questions actually. Sure. So the first one is, if you buy, having this relationship with comic book shops, is there a map that you could draw of which are the areas that are more open to indie books, or you never try to understand that? You never asked yourself that?
No, I mean, you kind of get a glimpse of it. Like, I know in New York, there's a bigger indie set. I mean, it's kind of the quote unquote cool places, like downtown.
The cities, the inner cities.
The cities. Yeah. So in New York, I know there's a whole big shelf of indie books. There's a whole section, in London, there's a whole section in certain shops in Canada. And so, but then you get surprised by there's a great place, a comic shop called The Deep in Alabama that loves to stock superhero comics.
Yeah,
nice.
So you get kind of these pockets of places, but that's what really excites me, because getting into a shop in New York in the indie section, that's a no-brainer. It makes sense. Yeah. If your books sell and it's cool, then it's going to go in. It's when you start bubbling in places that you weren't expecting, That's when you start to be like,
the Bible Belt.
Exactly. When they start getting excited about your gay comics, then you start to get kind of like, it starts to kind of, that's what gets you excited.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a new market, and it's a new thing that you were not expected. So there's things to be learned.
Exactly. I wasn't expecting it, but also it shows a level of optimism that I wasn't ready for, because it means that people are hungry. It means they're looking for singular visions and looking for passion and looking for fun. That's the thing that comics have kind of lost in the mainstream, is their whimsy and their fun. Because with the reseller market, with the big art market and all these things, it got way too serious. Where it's just kind of like, I get it, but it's fucking comic books.
It's funny you say that, because Matteo, do you remember we had Klaus on the show, Klaus Janson, and we were talking about that era in the 80s where it was like Klaus Janson, Howard Chaykin, Frank Miller, Dennis Cowan, Bill Sienkiewicz, Walter Simonson, like this wave of amazing talent with fresh new visions, like breathing life into these books in ways that had never been found. We were like, why, what happened? Why was that happening?
Yeah.
And he said two things. And the first thing he said was, we were having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing was, the publishers got behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so fresh. So yeah, you're right. I mean, fun is it.
Fun is imperative. Yeah. And also I understand though in the 90s and the markets were different, and I understand that with fear comes conservatism. You want to be a little more reserved. You're like, I want to know it's going to sell before I make it.
Yeah.
But that is the death of art.
You're right. And also we're living at a time where like you couldn't, what you're doing now, not to say you couldn't do it. What you're doing now, if you tried that in the 80s, would be so much like the chips are stacked so heavily against you in that way. People did it.
Yeah,
but the internet and the internet has allowed for a lot of change. Like you're talking about like getting to a shop in Alabama because you're getting internet orders because they're discovering you through website. Like none of that existed. So now is such a wonderful time to exploit this way of doing things.
Yeah, and especially because we have, if you're lucky, you have a computer and you have all these things. You have a store, and now after COVID, especially, everybody buys stuff online. So maybe pre-COVID, there was a thing where people wanted you in every shop, and that was the life or death of it. But then post-COVID, you get your toilet paper on Amazon, then you go to get your comics on Superhero Comics, and you get your thing. You watch a Netflix show and you call it a day. And like that's you have to tap into kind of that mentality now.
Yeah.
And then and then mail in the mail is such a lovely thing to get. So it's all these kind of cultural things, but I think really bringing back the fun and making sure people, I don't know, it's like I'm a man of the people, you want to be just like the creator and the reader, one and the same. It's a symbiotic relationship,
Yeah.
So do you have, I guess following up on the question I just asked, with these shops that are carrying you, do you have like personal like relationships with them, or are they just ordering through your website and you're not even meeting them?
Some of them, I mean, I've met the ones that are local to me, but like some of them I haven't met. But
do you think it's beneficial to start traveling to shops? Like,
yeah, I would love to do that.
Like a signing at the Alabama store, the Deep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you.
I mean, what I want to do eventually is, well, I don't think I'm big enough yet to warrant a signing. In terms of, it's like what we see on, if you go to my page or my website, it's my party. So it looks like super fun and super thing. But I think on the grander scale, if I say I'm doing a signing in Alabama, I have 3 people show up and they'll be like, sweet. And then, they call it a day. You know what I mean?
I got you.
So it's a long travel for just that. But in time, I want to do my convention and then do like, I want to do a group signing with people. Like give it a party. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. We have talked about
fun,
we've talked the idea of doing this like an Inkpulp little like tour maybe.
Yeah.
One day where like Matteo has a book, I have a book, Jim has a book, and we just get a truck or a van and we like say let's start in New York and work our way down to Atlanta or something like that.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we're making comic books. It's a very lucky. It is a lot of work, but it's a nice kind of work, And so when we meet people that are readers of it, we're the dreamers. And so it's our responsibility to kind of be like, come on, like dun 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 dun. We're just like believe in the whimsy again. Don't like sometimes you meet some creators that people get a little jaded and a little lost because they end up working they end up thinking that they're doing what they love, but they lose the essential thing that makes it valuable, which is to follow your own passion. Fucking Frank Sinatra said it. I stood tall. I did it my way.
Right.
Because at the end, if you have to make too many sacrifices and too many compromises, then you get a paycheck, but you're left with this sort of, this I don't know, this nastiness in you that creates the frown and creates the, comics are dying and all that bullshit and all this stuff. But when you do your own thing, you're just like, they're not dying. We're dying.
That's a great point.
This is another thing. This is just it's a question that comes from my ignorance.
Okay, sure.
So when you send books to a comic book shop, because you sell to people directly, so people can buy directly from the website, or you can ship stuff to comic book shops. What's the deal in there? They just buy X amount of copies to sell, or you have a different deal for retailers so they can return copies that don't get sold? How does it work?
I don't have that. It's like I just do wholesale, where I do it at like maybe not 60%, I think it is.
So you have a retailer price.
You have a retailer price.
Price
with a minimum of whatever.
Not even, because in my mind it's
not even minimum.
No,
okay, awesome.
Because in my mind it's the same as, like, if I understand the concept of the store owner wanting to like try it out, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm confident in the books that I'm like, order one, it'll sell, and then you'll want to order again, you know. So it's kind of like. And it doesn't cost me more to sell them one versus 10. So there's no minimums on my side. It's just a thing of like earlier on I would do consignment, but
consignment is I give you this and whatever you sell, then we do the money, and then I grab back and take back the ones that you didn't sell.
Exactly, and that I want to talk about this and the conventions because it's the same mentality. Where I would first you do consignment and then they start to sell. And then the owner of the store gets confident in you and he's like, I buy them directly. And then you go to the next comic shop, you're like, oh, I actually sell directly to this store. And then they're like, oh, well, if this big store is okay buying from you, I should be too. And then I'll buy a little less. And then boom. And then you have numbers and you say, well, I actually sold 1,000 copies of this from all these stores. And they're like, oh, and then it creates your kind of cachet.
Yeah.
In the same way with conventions, the minute I remember it was Heroes Con 2003, I think, where I applied for a table, and then they took it upon themselves to invite me as a professional. They deemed me a professional. Yeah. I was stoked. I was like, oh my God. But from that moment on, I decided never to go back. And so then I would reach out to other conventions and say, I'd love to attend, but I'm a professional now. I've been deemed a professional. And so little by little, then that's just how it happens. You got to fake it till you make it. You know what I mean?
Right.
No one's going to tell, you can't, what is being a professional? Doing it professionally.
Exactly.
You know? So it's kind of that same mentality where you just slowly take inch by inch until you have enough, until there's enough confidence behind you and enough fucking Yelp reviews of your life to make people.
And then you get on the Inkpulp podcast.
Exactly.
It's
the peak.
It's firmly established.
Exactly. No, but 100%. No, but
all right. Go ahead, guys.
As a young creator, I will say just the fact that you guys are willing to talk to me and we talk about craft and we have lunches and you guys respect what I do, it means it's astronomical because you guys are like the big brothers.
And also the fact that you pay us after recording, right? Oh, Shawn, you forgot to tell him? Oh, fuck. Sorry, Mahdi. I mean, consider it an investment for the future.
Exactly.
That makes sense. You're a hustler. You understand, right?
It's a business expense.
Matteo's like, thank you, Marti, for coming on the show. No, because you guys are the big brothers, Yeah,
but
it's rare for people.
Well, he's the grandpa. I'm the
big Fuck you. Marti, you were saying
No, but it's true that it's rare that in industries people extend that sort of grace in that hand because it takes a lot of creators are stuck in the past. A lot of creators are too focused on the present. And it's very rare to see creators that are willing to even see some kid coming up and be like, I see a future. You know what I mean?
I
oh
think,
yeah, no.
that
So
shows
we were talking about that like recently in one of the recent episodes.
No, and it's
about
amazing.
this, like, and especially when you see somebody who's a really literally a breath of fresh air like you, I mean, I feel compelled to do it, man. I genuinely, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass.
No.
Literally, it's just this conversation alone. Like everybody should listen to it.
It's two things. One, when I was coming up, I got a lot of help from established artists that helped me get my career going.
Right.
And I think it was Phil Hester, because he did a lot for me. And I said, Phil, you've done so much for me. What can I do in return? And he said, just promise me you'll continue this by doing it for kids coming up. And that also feeds into me being an educator and trying to teach. Is like I want to propel this medium forward in any small way I can.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is meeting Walter Simonson, because how you're saying to us, Walter treated me this way for a period of time. And it was like, I realized and Walter's an artist who's never gone stale. Like some artists, they're great and they just hit a point where they go stale. But like Mike Mignola and Walter, like these people never go stale. And I think it comes from this mentality of like, I'm just a student of this and I'm no better than someone coming in fresh and someone who's been doing it for 30 years. So I think those are healthy mentalities. Just to see this medium is bigger than you.
Absolutely. And I want to say also for other like indie creators, I came into it with a notion that it's not my right to be an artist. It's not my, I don't deserve to do this. And that you have to be very humble and very willing to work on what you do and not take it. So, if you go to a creator and they're not receptive to your work and they're being polite to you, they're not the asshole for not giving you a chance or a shout out or whatever. It's your responsibility to objectively look at your own work and be like, okay, the person wasn't impressed. C'est la vie. I gotta go on to the next one, and then maybe you'll do something that'll resonate with people. So it's just to say, kind of, you have to be humble, you have to respect your elders, eat your Wheaties, listen to your Walkman.
All right. So we're going to end the show here, but all of you out there, wait, what were you going to say, Matteo?
No. Go ahead.
Oh, look, I didn't even mean for that. We're going to continue this interview with Mahdi for our Patreon subscribers for the Patreon episode. So if you're not a subscriber, please get on that and check out the rest of this interview there. Matteo, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to tell Mahdi before we say goodbye, if you want to plug anything specific, the website.
Oh, sure. You can find all my stuff at superherocomics.com. Ask your local
Jamie,
comic
let's make
shop.
sure that we have the link in the description as well.
Absolutely.
And for books I have coming out, I just finished a book called The Martin Man, which is my Wolverine parody comic.
Let's talk about that on the Patreon episode, because we didn't get into that, and I definitely want to dig into that. For sure.
Yeah, but otherwise, superherocomics.com and Marti Keane on Instagram. That's where you can find me.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man.
All right, Mahdi, luckily you have those old earbuds. This won't hurt you as bad as it hurts me. Matteo, take us out of here.
Oh my God.
This is
This is insane.
the Inkpulp podcast.